Okay, I think we have enough people here to begin. Hi everyone, my name is Sarah. I'll be your moderator from AMSI for this webinar. Before we begin, I will just introduce AMSI's director, Professor Tim Marchant, to give a brief welcome to country and to introduce the webinar today.
Thanks, Sarah. Welcome everybody. I'm Tim Marchant. I'm Director of AMSI. I'd like to begin today by acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands on which we meet. I'd also like to pay my respects to elders past and present. I'd like to welcome all the attendees today, who I'm assuming will comprise some school teachers, parents, and also students, to this AMSI Telstra Careers Insight webinar. I'd like to thank the Telstra staff for participating today as well, and hope that the webinar provides some really good insights and motivations for students to study specialist maths and maths methods in Year 12, because there's many great career opportunities in STEM for students that have strong maths backgrounds. I'd like to say a few words about AMSI, which is the Australian Mathematical Sciences Institute. We're a peak body to promote the mathematical sciences in Australia. We have a broad membership, including universities, corporates, and also professional societies. And we operate programs across what we call the mathematical sciences pipeline. That includes schools, universities, and also industry as well. So AMSI has a long-standing partnership with Telstra. Um, in terms of workforce interactions, AMSI runs a program called the APR Intern Program, which places PhD students into research internships in companies. And over the years, we've placed many students into internships at Telstra. More recently, the company has supported our Industry Day for Teachers program by hosting maths teachers at their Melbourne offices. And they're also supporting today's webinar, of course, as well. So we value Telstra's support in our aim to better inform the community about the benefits of studying maths at school and also university as well. So with that, I'll pass back to Sarah.
Thanks, Tim, and thank you all for attending today's webinar. Today's session is all about helping you better understand what a career at Telstra might look like and the skills and experiences that can help you get there. Oh, I just noticed my camera wasn't on. You'll be hearing firsthand from three of Telstra's talented employees about their career journeys, the kind of work they do, and their advice for students and graduates interested in the field. We'll have time for a Q&A at the end, so please feel free to submit your questions throughout the session. I'm pleased to introduce our first speaker for the event, Gemma Both. Gemma is a technology solutions specialist at Telstra, working in the mobility space. After graduating with a Bachelor of Information Technology from RMIT, she joined Telstra through the Telstra Graduate Program as part of the Network Engineering pathway. Gemma's day involves working with stakeholders to understand business requirements that are transforming them into designs and solutions that developers bring to life. Gemma, over to you to begin.
Thanks, Sarah, and thanks AMSI and everyone on the call for having me and everyone from Telstra here today. So I'll just share my screen. Give me one moment. Hopefully that has popped up. Fantastic. So, as Sarah mentioned, hi, a big hi and a warm welcome to everyone. I'm Gemma Both, and I'm a technology solutions specialist here at Telstra. And yes, so I've been working at Telstra for just over 3 years now, and I started through the graduate program in 2022, coming via the network engineering pathway after completing my bachelor's of IT at RMIT, and I graduated at the end of 2021. So in my role today, I work in a team called CSM, which stands for Converged Services Manager, and we do wireless core provisioning for mobility customers. What does that actually mean? An example of this is when a customer might go and sign up for a Telstra mobile service. That service has to get activated, and that will come through us. So that's what we do behind the scenes. More broadly, my job as a technology solutions specialist is to translate business needs into technical blueprints as such that our developers then build. It's really creative and collaborative job, and I get to work across different teams. I get to problem solve. I help design real solutions that impact lots and lots of real customers. Um, Outside of work, a few fun facts about me. I love building Lego, so that's my problem solving extending to my personal life. I love singing, I love cooking and baking, and I've always enjoyed experimenting with technology in my own time too. So I've got a few personal projects. 3D printing is one of them. I'm very amateur though. So now that you know a little bit about what I do, I want to take you through how I got here. I was actually a really, really quiet student growing up, and to now coming to work in tech and being a little bit more confident. And I also want to share some advice that might help you navigate your own journey. Fantastic. So I didn't always know I wanted to work in tech. And that's the first thing I'll say. Um, in primary school, I was really, really quiet and really, really shy. And I was always told that I was great at reading and writing and that I actually maybe needed some more confidence in maths. Um, but at home, I was always playing around with our computers, when I was very old computers when I was younger, and very slow internet, but nevertheless, it was fun playing around with that. Um, and I loved exploring how things worked and, teaching my family what I'd found out as well. My dad, growing up, he was a tradesman, so I sort of grew up watching him build and fix things. He'd figure out how something worked, and he'd sort of make a solution out of that and bring something to life like magic. And that definitely inspired me. I like pulling things apart. I like solving problems and learning by doing. So when I got to high school, things kind of changed a little bit. I came out of my shell, and for the first time, we sort of had like, proper regular tests, including maths tests, after each study units, which was a little bit different to primary school. We didn't have as regular tests then. And I started getting, really high results in maths, A plus results. And, that happened every single time. And I realized, okay, I'm actually really good at maths. And I really like it too. So yeah, I was, coming to the realization that I was good at problem solving, good at logical thinking, and that confidence in myself was growing as well. Um, and from there on, I ended up, choosing advanced math subjects as I went through. I was put in the advanced math subjects and then continued with that onto VCE. And in addition, I naturally gravitated towards computing and electronics electives as well, as that's where my real passion was. Um, and yeah, at the time, computing though wasn't super popular at my school, and I was in VCE computing and software development. It was really fun, but I was the only girl in the class as well, so that was a little bit tough. But I really loved how different and exciting the content was, and so I stuck with it. So my passion really helped me there. Um, and around that time as well, VCE, a little bit before then as well, I was thinking, oh, what do I want to do after school? Um, how do I know? How do I figure this out? I don't have experience in anything. Um, I actually considered law. I had been told previously I was really good at literacy, and not so much, not mathematics was sort of second. I considered law. I actually did work experience at the magistrates court, and I came out and I thought, no, this is not for me. I really do want to go into tech. I really do love problem solving. It was where I felt most curious and creative, and so that's where I set my sights on and went from there. And from there, the next part is university. So I went on to study my Bachelor's of IT, as I said, and I absolutely loved getting to study something that I was really interested in. The degree was quite broad, so I did do a lot of networking subjects, cybersecurity, cloud, programming as well. A lot of math skills come into all of these subjects, math subjects specifically, Linux, and a lot of other things. So that was really fun, although there were challenges there too. I didn't always feel like the expert in the room. I was a little bit of an underdog at times. Sometimes I had problems, onboarding or installing things. I didn't always get things right away, and Sometimes I questioned, oh, is this really for me? Am I supposed to be here? But what helped me get through that was having the confidence in my own curiosity, I guess, and sticking with it because I really loved the content. And eventually, I found a great group of people in my who were studying the same degree as me, and we formed a group. We were really supportive of each other, and we made it through together, even during the tough COVID lockdowns, which forced everything online. So that was a little bit of a challenge too, but we got through it. And after that, the last thing on this slide here is my first job in industry. So applying for graduate programs. And yeah, in my final year of uni, I started applying for these graduate programs. And my big key tip is you need to apply early. So a lot of grad programs open in the first half of the year, before you finish uni at the end of the year and before you start that job the next year around. What helped me here was creating a list of companies I was interested in and tracking when their applications opened. I applied to a few. I was really interested in defense, actually. So I applied to a few defense agencies. Many of those roles required relocating to Canberra. And, I didn't really want to do that. I love being in Melbourne, working, studying, and living in Melbourne. So, and I had a strong support network here as well. So I decided, I don't really want to do that. One of the companies I applied for was Telstra. And I remember getting the call with an offer in the middle of the year before I finished. And I was a little unsure because I did have my sights set on defense. But I just had a good feeling about it. Even my family, speaking to them about it, they said, Gemma, we think Telstra is going to suit you. We have a really good feeling about this. And the feeling was right. It's been a really great experience at Telstra so far. As I said, I joined through the graduate program. The first thing I got to work on was a project called Telstra Spatial Insight, so before the role that I'm in now. And it was actually an AI powered tool. So super cool buzzword at the moment, AI. So it used video analytics and machine learning to understand how people move through spaces. And I worked on building and deploying that solution to Telstra's retail stores across the country and other organizations as well, such as councils. So I loved it. It was hands-on, fast-paced. I learned so much about the real-world system software, AI, and project delivery. Um, and then near the end of my time there, I started looking into solution architecture as a technology solution specialist or solution architect, and realized, that's where I want to head. So yeah, I have now switched into a different role in the mobility space, as I sort of touched on at the start of this. And I get to be part of the design process now. So I'm a little bit less hands-on in a developer sense, but I'm more at stepping back into the design. So I get to listen to what the business needs. I break down that problem, and I design how it should work technically, so that it can be developed. And I love that in this role, I get to use both technical skills and soft skills, communication skills. So I feel like it really suits me. I've always, loved speaking as well as I've, grown, from sort of high school through to uni. My presentation skills have sort of grown and my confidence, and I love doing it. So it really suits me. So the next part is what helped me to succeed. So here's a few things that helped me to succeed, and maybe you can take something from this. So you don't need to know everything from day one. Just be open-minded, adaptable, and willing to learn. Soft skills matter just as much as tech skills. So being able to communicate clearly, as I said, ask the right questions and collaborate with others, it will set you apart as well. And you can't plan every detail as well. So I'm a planner. I like to have things organized, but sometimes you have to go with the flow, and sometimes the unexpected will happen and it will be amazing. So, some of the best opportunities in my career, such as the role I'm in now, happened when I didn't originally plan for it. I didn't even know what solution architect or technology solution specialist was when I was in uni or high school. So you just don't know what will happen. And some advice to my high school self and you as well. So if I could go back in time, I would say try and start networking as early as you can. Talk to people, ask questions, learn from others, build that network up early. You'll lean on them, and just knowing how to network with people will help you as you go along. Um, do what you love as well. So do what you love and try and find out how that connects to to a real job. So if you love maths, tech, puzzles, that is a huge strength in itself, and there are so many jobs that you can connect that to and transfer those skills into. So yeah, attending sessions like this webinar, listening to people in industry, all of those things is really good, and you can see how you can what you can do in the future. Um, so that's my advice and my journey. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope my journey helps you a little bit with yours. I'll stop sharing my screen now, and I'll hand over to you, Sarah.
Thanks, Gemma. I was just scribbling some notes as you spoke. It was really interesting that trade inspired you as a child, although stereotypically trade doesn't necessarily have that much to do with maths. So I thought that was really fascinating. And I thought it was also really interesting that you were the only girl in the VCE software class. Unfortunately, statistics like that is not something that changes still today, that we hear here at AMSI. So, but it was great to hear that even though you considered yourself in these places the minority, and even saying things like you're an underdog potentially at university, and at one point you were thinking about studying law, that you still stayed true to what was of interest to you, and you continued to kind of go through all those barriers. But I think the most important thing that you discussed in your presentation was really all those useful insights for students, applying for the grad programs really early. I thought it was really useful because they are actually really competitive. And so having them on your radar essentially a year before going into them is really, really important. So thanks so much for your insights, Gemma.
Thanks, Sarah.
I'm now passing over to our second speaker of the day, Nick Hoare. Nick is a technology professional with over 20 years of experience across a range of roles, including analyst, manager, architect, often cycling between them as needed. He currently works in Telstra's cloud economics team, where he focuses on the company's analyzing spending with public cloud vendors. He holds a Bachelor of Computing from Monash and has continually updated his skills through industry certifications and courses. If he had one wish, it would be to be better at maths. Over to you, Nick.
Thanks, Sarah. Hi, everyone. I'll just get this slide up and running. Okay, it should be on the screen, so I'll hide this thing. So thanks very much for having me, AMSI, today. And it's really interesting just to hear Gemma's story as well just before. My name is Nick Hoare. I'm from the Telstra Cloud Economics team, and that's part of the Global Networks and Technology Group at Telstra. By all means, feel free to reach out, connect on LinkedIn. Always happy to, answer any questions about my journey and if I can help in any way. So I've got some contact details here. So who am I? I definitely wasn't an A+ student in maths at school. I wish I was. Somehow I found my way halfway to 92 years old, to give an indication of my age, but 23 feels like yesterday. I'm from Melbourne, so yeah, I'm not in San Francisco like my background shows, but I wish I was, but I'm from Melbourne. Seen a bit of Europe and Asia for holidays. Thought about a working holiday, but I like Melbourne, it's good. Been via the Midwest as well through work. Married with two daughters in grade 5 and year 7, and they're much better at maths than me. I will say though that like AI is amazing, and ChatGPT has definitely helped me help my year 7 daughter with her maths homework, just to not cheat there a little bit, but just to try to get a bit of a different explanation, because I just scraped through, as I mentioned in the next piece there, so as well. So we have a fluffy dog called Bonnie, which we love, and she gives us lots of pats and joy. But my journey is scraped through year 12 VCE in 96. after 12 years or whatever of school, I'd had enough of it. I needed a break, and a friend said to me, "What are you going to do, Nick? You should just be a mechanic, do what you like to do." Because I loved working on cars and tools and things like that. So I ventured into that track, and I really enjoyed it. But 6 months into my apprenticeship, I could see that, wow, there's a lot of electronics, there's a lot of science, a lot of physics and things, and um, how can I learn more about this stuff? So I went to night school to do a Bachelor of Electronics. And at night school, lo and behold, they wanted us to do things like algebra and things. And through my journey at school, I often found it hard to figure out, like, why would I need to know this algebra stuff at work? No, who uses this stuff? I don't know. When I went to TAFE to do the electronics course, we actually could sort of see how, well, it made more sense to me how I guess the complex maths is important in this sort of stuff. So we had some tutors there that were really helpful for me, and we had some maths courses that we had to do and just work through some of those problems in a self-paced mode. And that really helped me build my confidence up, and to the point where I thought, actually, I guess I'm a bit of a slow learner, and we all have a different tracks that we take. And I thought I might give this uni thing a go. I like computers, and I was always mucking around with computers, and we're going back to the pre-internet days almost, or we were. But I want to know more about that, and I thought that might be a good career to look at as well, because one of my passions is automotive, but it's a tough industry, and it really didn't sort of feel like you were getting paid for the amount of stuff you needed to know. So that led me down the IT track. I landed a graduate job with Accenture, which was really terrific for me, and some projects at AMZ and NAB, and mostly Telstra over the next 15 or so years, and mostly in the sort of servers and networking space. So building applications, deploying them, and whatnot. So many times I did some roles in Telstra, and in 2020 I came through to Telstra as a permanent, and initially in the cloud architecture team, and then transferring more recently into the cloud economics group where I am today. So I mentioned as Kumon helped me a lot. I definitely was an A+ student, but I'm sure everyone here on this call is a strong math student. But if you're not, there's other ways to find your way, and having the right people to, I guess, support me and sort of guide me through, the complex questions was important. And I never really had a strong answer for that question, like, what do you want to do? Like, whenever people seem to ask that, it was always puzzling to me. Like, how do I know for certain what I want to do if, the jobs might not be there, tomorrow? And we've seen that certainly in the last sort of decade or so with cloud computing come up, and AI, and whatever. So there could be many things out there in the future that we just don't know yet. I like doing interesting things that help people, that help our team, and things that are technical and things that are complex problems. So that leads me to a few things which I'll touch on in a little bit. I'd like to spend more time riding mountain bikes single track. That was fun, and walking ancient rainforests and getting out there in the open. Once a mechanic, always a mechanic. Sometimes I'm fixing cars. Often in my job at the moment, I'm fixing data. So where do I use maths in Telstra? So currently I'm in the cloud economics team. It's kind of a bridge between management accounting and cloud computing. We use a lot of cloud computing. Every month, the hyperscalers, your Amazons, your Microsoft Azure and Google Cloud, they send us a bill for what we've used. That involves some big numbers. We use a lot of it, and we analyze that to see, which applications have used those, and which business units. We work with developer teams to find ways to try to bring the costs down, finance teams to put the costs into the right places in the business, prepare budgets and whatnot. Some of the tools we use is Excel, and Excel is a bit of a theme through my slides, and you'll see in a little bit. You can't really get away from Excel, is what I found, and it's a pretty awesome and powerful tool. And Power BI is terrific. I picked up that skill in the last couple of years, and that's been a bit of a game changer for me as well. We have some third-party management software just to bring in all these costs from the hyperscalers. There's always some software in there somewhere to bring in the integrations. And in my previous role to that as well, I was in the cloud architecture team. So that was a bit of a different focus, like requirements, products, budgets, and benefits to try to figure out the best solutions for Telstra in our cloud space. Focus a lot more on the stuff I studied at uni around compute and computing, storage, servers, and whatnot. And again, Excel features. We use Excel along with the specifications from our internal stakeholders and the solutions we might be purchasing to try to figure out, what the peak throughput is or whatever it might be. I've got a bit of an example I sort of sketched out down the bottom, but lots of models, and ultimately there's lots of maths in there, and it is important because there's many big decisions to be made, and these cost money as well, and we want to get them right. So maths has definitely come back to the fore for me, but we use that insofar as through tools like Excel, and I think that's important, that I'll touch on in the next slide. Because I think it's important to stand out from the crowd, try to differentiate yourself and color your resume with different certificates or maybe courses that you won't always sort of do in your sort of straightforward undergrad degree. You might know the stuff really inside out. You might have used Power BI or heaps of Excel to do your uni assignments, or even through VCE work as well. But coming into an employer, it's always good to see people like new grads that have come through that have strong sort of Excel skills, or when you throw them a bit of data to analyze or look at, or to say, can you help put a presentation together for this, they can sort of hit the ground running with some tools that we just sort of are becoming much more commonplace now, such as Power BI. And these sort of things, I think, can help sort of give a bit of a leg up and say to potential employers that you've sort of identified, okay, that Excel is important. It's used pervasively in all the different businesses and things, from scientific stuff to accounting stuff, and it's something that's not really going away. And you can complement that with BI as well, and that's definitely been a bit of a game changer for me, and sort of opening up some new doors in my roles and how I've contributed at work as well. I definitely had this line before: the Excel file is great, but can we get this in a Power BI report? And I like memes as well, really witty memes, and I've got one for this afterwards. Because we might do a lot of maths inside Excel, but somehow we've got to be able to bring that up to the fore, so that the managers or your peers or other stakeholders and teams that you work with can sort of really see what's important. And we do that through things like Power BI reporting, and Power Apps as well also helps. So just getting a good handle on these sort of tools, I think, is really important. I've thrown in another area there for cloud FinOps concepts. There's free courses out there. There's heaps of stuff out there on the internet that you can come across through Udemy courses and things. I just sort of encourage people to have a look at that. And I know, certainly for me, like, I think if I've just done a whole degree or finished all the sort of VC work, why should I need to do more different courses? It's a bit frustrating, but it can really just sort of give you a bit of an edge over maybe the rest of the crowd. And it is competitive when you're going out there looking for a job in the workplace. And FinOps is a thing as well, I think, is important, because ultimately it's great that there's so much computing power out there with the cloud and the hyperscalers and things, but you'll get hit with the cost per month, and they need to get paid, and they will get paid. And so who's accounting for these sort of costs? And all of a sudden you're using this service and that service. And so FinOps is really important, and it's definitely something that's here to stay. So I think it's something to look into, and there's some free courses about that too. So there's no free lunch in the cloud, it's paid by the hour. So I think it's important as well that your background might be in sort of scientific type of maths and things like that. But if you can get a good grasp on just the accounting side and have an appreciation for that and who's paying the bills here, it's something that potential employers will appreciate, because they understand that you are conscientious about the services that you use and consume, and we at the end of the day, someone's got to cover the costs as well. So I'll just wrap it up there. So I just got a bit of a thank you and some helpful hints. The theme I was just talking about before, there's a quote from Warren Buffett, which I really like, which is, "Accounting is the language of business." It took me a long time to embrace this. And as I said, if it's not your main interest area, accounting, that's fine. It definitely wasn't mine to begin with. But the more time I sort of spent in organizations, I realized that no matter how interesting your science project is about how we're going to create this cool app and it's going to do stuff, the costs have to be paid by somewhere, and having a good appreciation of where the money comes in through the business and where it goes out, I think is super important, especially to help decision makers, in terms of making the right decisions on what to spend the money on. I think also, I'll just go over to my memes here on the side. You can't get away from Excel, is what I found after some time, as depressing as that might be a little bit. But if you can embrace Excel, there's some really, really good benefits out there. And I think the other thing is, if you're a new graduate coming through, or you're just looking for a career change, the person that's out there in the team that can grab something like complex processes or Excel or reporting and just jump on it and make it work and make it all add up correctly, and is willing to put in the hard yards or the bit of sort of the grunt work doing the Excel work, they often become the go-to person. And if you can make yourself the go-to person, then you've got a career for life, I believe, and that's a really important thing. So there's a photo there of Atlas holding up the whole financial world. I mean, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but there's a lot of powerful things that we can do in Excel, and you'll find that it's everywhere you go in the workplace. I've got another one here on Power BI. I love Power BI. It's been great for me, and I love to see where people I'm reporting to or customers that I'm working with, they are delighted that they can see all the costs or whatever it might be, and they can click through here and there's cool graphics and stuff. But underpinning that, we have Excel or a big database of data, and someone's got to maintain that and understand how all that hangs together and works. And I think that's a really important thing to do as well, is just to realize that for all the cool stuff you might see in front of you, like it might be ChatGPT, it's a very simple interface, very powerful what it can give out to you. But behind the scenes, there's a whole lot of data and a whole lot of maths and a whole lot of science that goes in behind that. So having an appreciation for that, and knowing that someone somewhere has figured all that stuff out, and that maybe you might be the next person as well that can take it to the next step, is an important thing. Don't stress about the perfect job or role if you're job hunting, or what your peers are doing. Just be encouraging, helpful, and supportive is my advice. Starting small in whatever role you might be doing. It might not seem glorious, but every day, every sort of hour you spend trying to work on something and helping people in the team and helping build some sort of model up. It might be a bit of drudgery sort of work, building complex Excel models and things, or a lot of number crunching. But that can all build up a lot of muscle memory and a lot of just goodwill as well, in terms of the work you've done for people and just navigating your way around the organization in early years of your career. I think that can help sort of really develop conversations, networks, and stuff you have, that you might just grab opportunities that you just don't find on LinkedIn and seek, because people remember that, oh yeah, John or Jane, they did all that great work, they really know this stuff, so let's grab them, they can step up. I think you can do that well if you can place yourself where your interests and talents lie. I know that I'm not going to be a I don't know, a NASA math scientist. I fit much better in the telco space. That's where I have a background in. My dad worked for telecom for a long time as well, so it's sort of something I'm comfortable with. So try to place yourself in the right space. Not always easy when you're job hunting and going for the first few jobs, but if you can bring enthusiasm, and you can do that if you're doing things that are in the space you like, that can be great to see. Can be infectious and just fantastic when you see someone who's really interested in taking notice and provide you some tailwinds in the career. Build stuff, break stuff, fail, try again. All that sort of stuff is really good. Figuring out how things work is important. I think that sort of shows a real desire to learn and to improve, and figuring out how things could be better is always valued. Helpful people, I think, to me, will notice that. It won't always be straight away. You won't go on a linear curve up your career to all the big bucks. There might be a lot of hard yards, but it could be logarithmic curve, like the hockey stick type of analogy, and really compound later on as well. So so nothing's easy. Well, nothing worthwhile is ever really easy. Some things are easy. Certainly, if Gemma was getting A plus in her maths at school, that was easy, and that's fantastic. That's a good indication that you should venture into a math science area. For me, I had to work at it a bit, but opportunities definitely present themselves because I really persevered and dug in. So I think that's probably where I'll wrap it up. That's certainly the end of my slides. I hope that's been helpful. And back to you, Sarah.
Thanks. Lots of useful tips in there, but there were two that really stood out for me. I think the first being how AI can actually be used as a tool to help students by having them see a different perspective rather than just being kind of a cheat answer platform. It can actually be used to, help them in their development. As well as the short courses thing, I thought was really, really key. I think setting yourself apart by showing that you want to go above and beyond and you're looking to, increase your expertise and become a specialist, I think is really key for a lot of people in a high demand, math, STEM, tech area. It's really great. I think that was really good advice. And there are lots of free ones as well, which is really good. I will now be introducing our final speaker for this event, who is Ali Lee. Ali is a senior solutions architect and people manager at Telstra with over a decade of experience in mobile network technologies. She holds a bachelor's in telecommunications engineering at UNSW and a master's in IT software engineering from Macquarie University. Recently, she's worked in delivering initiatives in 5G soliciting, 5G standalone, and satellite to mobile. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Sarah and AMSI, for the opportunity to speak today. So I will also be sharing, and hopefully you'll be able to see that. So what I thought might be a little bit fun was that I would take you through my, career journey as well, but I will be plotting against the timeline of what has been happening in Telstra's mobile network, because that is the domain in which I operate. So 2006, Telstra launches the NextG mobile network, and now this is a 3.5G, as it is known in the 3GPP standards, and it is based on HSPA, high-speed packet access. So this is still the heyday of 3G, and with this launch, not only do customers now get to experience download speeds of an amazing 10 megabits per second, but the network is now wider, reaches more places across Australia, and this will be the heyday of phones like the Motorola Razr and the BlackBerry. You might have to ask your parents about it, but they were very popular at the time. So what was I doing when all this was going on? So I was in high school at the time. I went to a girls' high school in New South Wales, and I was preparing for my higher school certificate, wondering what should I be preparing to do as I enter university. And so I had a great interest in maths, sciences, especially physics and chemistry, and in programming. And I knew that I wanted to either get into engineering or into the sciences. And I think one of the greatest things, or one of the most helpful things that I did, was actually did a work experience piece with the CSIRO, which helped me to understand what does a scientist do day to day. And I feel like it's these practical experiences that can kind of help you get some more insight, especially when you're still trying to make decisions. So I ended up choosing engineering, spoiler. But if I move into 2011, so 2011 is when Telstra launches LTE. Now, LTE stands for long-term evolution. And most commonly, people think of LTE as a 4G standard, but in actual fact, it was a 3.9G. So the standard just before we reached 4G from a 3GPP standardization perspective. So you can throw this fun fact if you're having any gathering. Um, and so in 2011, I was doing my bachelor's in telecommunications engineering at the University of New South Wales. I ended up selecting telecommunications, which is based on an electrical engineering degree, because I felt that that would give me a reasonable foundation. So electronic engineering, so electrical engineering, has really strong foundation in mathematics. And it did answer one of the questions that I had while I was studying in high school, which is, what are these imaginary numbers for anyway? Which I did find out as part of my degree. And electrical engineering underpins lots of other fundamental subjects. So for example, if I had felt the need to pivot, I could have moved into microelectronics, power systems, software engineering, or control systems. So while I was at university, I had the pleasure of being accepted into the co-op program, which allows me to get hands-on experience at different companies during the life of my degree. So while I was studying my bachelor's, I got the chance to work at Qantas in the avionics engineering department, at TUI's, the beer company, and Dematic as a control systems engineer, and then also at Alcatel-Lucent, which is now owned by Nokia, getting a sense of what a networking engineer is. Now it's 2014. So in 2014, Telstra enables LTE-A or LTE Advanced. Telstra markets this as 4GX for some of you that may remember. And this is where we reach true 4G from a standardization perspective. And then a year later, in 2015, Telstra brings in VoLTE, which is voice over LTE, which enables packet switched voice rather than the circuit switch voice, which is what 3G is based upon. And this is a little bit of a difference that is like what we had with the copper phone networks before we moved to NBN. So 2014-15, I'm currently finishing up the Telstra graduate program, which I had joined. And the Telstra graduate program, or any graduate program, is a really great way of joining a company and then getting to explore a couple of different things while being supported by the company. So I got the opportunity to work in Telstra International, which is the group that's responsible for all of the telecommunication network that leaves or enters Australia. So that's subsea cables, satellite landing stations. I also got to have a stint with the device ranging team. So I got to talk to different device vendors, such as Samsung and Nokia, as they brought in new handsets to be on-sold by Telstra. And then I got to roll off into the mobile product testing area. So I got to test different mobile products that will be launched to customers and checking that they all worked out the way that they should. Now, 2019, Telstra launches 5G. Now that is the common marketing name, but in the specifically in the telecommunications industry, we know this is 5G non-standalone. And the fun fact about non-standalone is that the backbone of the network is still 4G, but from a radio perspective, the 5G has been enabled. So 2019, I've now worked as a solution architect for a number of years, and as a solution architect within Telstra, what I do is a bit like what a normal architect or a building architect does. Effectively, my job is to put together a picture of something that meets the requirements of the business and is going to deliver something that works. And then what I do is I communicate with the different teams that are equivalent to like the carpenters or the glaziers, etc., in order to get the teams organized so that they deliver each of their components in order to put this thing together. I'm not so much concerned about when they are doing something like a project manager would be. I'm more concerned about what they are doing. So I have worked in this area now for around coming up to 8 years. And so I've worked on different projects, as mentioned in my introduction, like 5G slicing and satellite to mobile, but I've also gotten the opportunity to work on various initiatives for international roaming and designing products like the Telstra latency optimizer. Now, if we get into 2024 and 2025, so very recent now. So in 2024, Telstra exited their 3G network. So 3G network was now 21 years old. And Telstra shut down this network so that we could refarm a lot of that spectrum in order to improve 4G and 5G connectivity for our customers. And around the same time, I decided that I was in the need of a change. So I, last year, moved to becoming effectively a chapter lead or a team manager. And so now I manage a team of solution architects and I help to develop them career-wise and then work with them on what they are delivering within their projects or missions. And then finally, more recently, Telstra has launched satellite to mobile. So that happened 1 month ago. And satellite to mobile was launched via the SpaceX network, and it lets Telstra customers, if they have a compatible device or plan, access messaging when outside the standard terrestrial network. So I got the opportunity to work on this project with Gemma, who you heard from earlier today, and I got to work with lots of amazing and talented people at Telstra, which is why I'm still really excited about the job that I do and what I get to do day to day working with new technologies as they change, which have a real impact to the lives of Australians and a number of you on the call. So then in summary, a few things that I would just like to summarize on is that technology is always changing. So kind of as evidenced by my slides, nothing has really stayed the same. But staying curious and always being willing to learn, I feel is key to staying on top of things. Mathematics underpins understanding. So there's lots of things that we do within the business where mathematics is actually foundational. Having a really good understanding of risk and probability, being able to explain things in terms of the finances, all of this comes into our day every day that we work. And finally, being proactive in making and taking opportunities. And what I mean by that is getting those work experience opportunities in places that you might want to consider as your career is a really good way of understanding if that's the job or the industry that you want to be in. Setting yourself up for success when you go for your degrees, like looking into co-op placements can be really helpful as they will help you sort of get those opportunities and your foot into some of those initial doors to get you set up. And so perhaps I will leave it there and I will hand back to Sarah. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ali, for that insightful presentation. I think what you touched on around the practical experiences to help you retrieve more insights into what you want to be doing is a really good tip for a lot of students. You know, get on the ground, see what work experience is out there and get a taste for what you think you might be interested in to develop where you want to go in your career. It was also really interesting to see all the evolutions of the networks. It was definitely a nostalgic moment. I definitely remember some of those logos from back in the day. And although so much has evolved over time, and as you mentioned, nothing kind of stays the same, there was a through line that math still is foundational and math still underpins all of the changes within your role and beyond at Telstra. So thank you for sharing those insights. We will now move on to the Q&A session. So this is your chance to ask any questions to any of the panelists about their careers, studying maths related courses, or anything else you're curious about. So feel free to submit your questions via the Q&A chat function, and we'll get to them in due course. I will kick off as we have a submission in the chat at the moment for yourself, Gemma, and potentially for a representative at AMSI as well. The question is, it's interesting that you were the only girl doing VC software development. What do you think the possible reason for high school dropout in maths or science tertiary courses could be? Do you think this has something to do with it, just like the limited amount of gender balance in the classrooms?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely a contributing factor. I'm sure there are other reasons as well, but yeah, it would definitely be a reason. It is hard to be sort of feel supported when you're the only female in a room. But in saying that, I found and made lots of friends, really supportive people that weren't females as well. And you just sort of have to push through that. But yes, I definitely see it as a contributing factor.
And thanks for sharing that, Gemma. I know it definitely would have been a very stark moment to be the only girl in that classroom at such a young age. So I think it's really admirable that you just continued on and it didn't really bother you at the time, which was really great to hear. I actually have a question for all of the panelists. Are there any concepts in high school maths that you use every day in your role? Just a small example of maybe something you were doing back, in high school that you're still doing today that you learned in the classroom. Gemma, I might start with you while you're on the screen.
A specific example, I guess, is hard to think of, but I guess a lot of my work involves logical thinking, pattern recognition, and problem solving. So all of that kind of comes from a strong maths foundation, which we get through our education through primary school, high school, and into uni as well. So when I design those solutions that I was talking about, I break down the systems. I work with data structures and map how components interact. So I guess it's following that math foundation or problem solving foundation skill.
Nick, I see you on the screen as well.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. I think sort of touched on a little bit before, just about the accounting side of things. I know it's not always super scientific and whatnot, but it is important. So I think that's a good thing, that you don't always have to be a super maths brain whiz to be able to have a really constructive sort of career and input into the success of the business or just your area as well. So the accounting side is important, and I think also to the audience as well. There's only three of us here, but there's many others in Telstra. So there's a lot of different, very smart people out there in Telstra doing lots of different things out at the operations center and other engineering areas that will maybe a lot more interesting than just my cloud economics accounting side of things.
Ali, do you have anything further to add?
I would definitely echo both of what Gemma and Nick have said. Though I do think there are definitely some roles in Telstra that mathematics can be foundational. Sometimes I talk to the people from the radio access network and they're deep in the statistical probability of how coverage can reach everyone that it needs to. But having a good understanding of mathematics does help in the work and in the day-to-day to have conversations with other people to help create that understanding of what is happening in reality.
Thanks, Ali. The next question we have from one of the attendees is, what do you think are the key things Telstra is looking for when applicants apply for their graduate programs, and how many graduates do they take per year? Gemma, do you know the answer to this question?
I'll give it a shot. So in terms of the numbers, it varies per year. So it will vary slightly per year, depending on things going on in the company, depending on the economy, and things going on in the world as well. In terms of what is important and what we look for, we don't want we don't expect you to come in knowing everything. You're here in the grad program to learn. So it's not always about having the most technical skills, but maybe more how you conduct yourself. At the soft skills, I guess I touched on during my presentation as well. The confidence, the enthusiasm, the willingness to learn. If we can see that, you can develop that alongside your technical skills. There's obviously specific pathways that we hire into too. So network engineering, software engineering, cyber, those are some of them. Some skills from your degree in those areas is important, but you don't need to be an expert.
Thanks, Gemma. Just checking if anyone else has anything they'd like to add before we move on. I would also echo, what Nick was saying in his presentation, really trying to set yourself apart and doing those extra courses or those unique value adds, I think would be really great for your resume when you're applying for competitive graduate programs as well at Telstra. So I encourage you to do that and have a look. Our next question in the Q&A function is, from what you guys remember or know of the maths curriculum from year 7 to year 10, do you think it prepares students appropriately for industry and careers in STEM? And if not, what would you change about it? Was there anything that stood out that you thought was not as helpful to your industry careers?
I might start off just from seeing my daughter's year 7 homework that she's brought home with maths, and I think it's definitely a strong curriculum, I'd say. Like, we're touching on algebra and those kind of things pretty early on, which was a bit heady for us, and certainly for her, the jump from grade 6 maths was a big challenge. But if that's what she's sort of starting off, and that's what's more to come, then that's definitely good skills. I think it's just important though, just the soft skills important, but also the practical skills as well. If people are coming into the company and they're brilliant at specialist maths, I don't want them to feel let down because they're not doing specialist maths on day one type of job role. So, but the equations can be flipped around a little bit if they might be doing complex things in Excel or in Python and other languages. You're still exercising that your brain in that way. So, yeah, open to other comments as well.
I'll just jump in with a comment if that's all right, Sarah. I think maths methods at year 11 and 12 is really a base level of mathematics ability that you need to do these STEM degrees, such as engineering and IT, and then go into the jobs as being described at Telstra. So I really think, doing maths methods at year 11 and 12 is really what students need to be aiming for to achieve and have the options of all these great careers.
Thanks, Tim. I will wrap up as that's all the time we have this evening with one final question for all of the panelists. If you could give one piece of advice to your younger self, what would it be? Nick, I'll start with you.
Keep trying. Yeah, I just, why do I need to know X plus Y? Who cares? I'm not going to need that. Well, you do at times, and nothing is, anything worthwhile is not always easy. So there's a reason for things, and sometimes it's just a way to think, help you think laterally or differently, and appreciate that a lot more. So yeah, keep trying is probably my thing.
Gemma, and then Ali.
My one would be take your time and don't stress. There's never a rush to get anything done. You're always, every day we learn something new, things new today, and in 5 years, 10 years, I still will be. So there's no rush.
I kind of echo that sentiment, is not to be afraid of the unknown. So if you're doing something that you don't fully understand or is something that's completely new, it means that you're learning and you're growing, and that is what's exciting.
Thank you everyone for joining us today for this special AMSI Telstra Careers webinar. On behalf of AMSI and Telstra, I'd like to sincerely thank our wonderful panelists, Gemma, Nick, and Ali, for sharing their insights and experiences. I'd also like to thank AMSI and Telstra's team members for their hard work in putting this event on behind the scenes. And of course, a big thank you to all of the attendees for your thoughtful questions and engagement throughout the session. Before we finish, I'd like to highlight a couple of opportunities and resources to help you as you explore your future career pathways. The first being applications for the AMSI Yule Umbers Female Specialist Maths High School Scholarships will be opening in August, a fantastic opportunity for Year 11 and 12 students passionate about mathematics and related fields. Please keep an eye out for updates through AMSI's channels and subscribe to our newsletter to hear when applications open. We are also launching an AMSI Schools newsletter for teachers, students, and parents to hear about the latest AMSI programs that are relevant to them. You can subscribe via the link I'm just about to put in the chat function, and then you can also just subscribe to our regular fortnightly newsletter as well if you'd like to hear about upcoming programs and events from AMSI. Thank you again for being a part of today's webinar. We hope you leave feeling inspired and excited by the opportunities ahead in maths. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.